You're looking into the eyes of a ghost, a man who disappeared 12 years ago, a man the FBI is desperate to find. By now, he could look like this, or this, or this. But there is no disguise for evil. The crime he's accused of committing is a savage one.
The armored car guy is here. The guy has been shot at least 6 times.
On November 29th, 2004, Robert Keith Palomares was cut down in front of this movie theatre in Phoenix, Arizona. 5 shots to the head. The killer wanted money.
He didn't warn my brother. Didn't even say a word. Just within a blink of an eye, he executed. Shot my brother 3 times. And as my brother laid on the floor, bleeding out, the guy still shot him more times. Who does that?
Oh man, we gotta get an ambulance here. He's dying.
Robert was the bag man in an armoured car team. His job was to physically pick up money from the businesses along his route. He usually had between 30 and 60 stops per day. He was a pro.
He knew what he was doing. He was trained very well. He stayed focused. He didn't take it lightly. He didn't take it as a joke. He loved his job.
That morning, everything went as usual. The driver dropped Robert off and then kept an eye peeled for anything out of place. Robert made his pickup at the box office. Everything was cool. So Thomas, he's just walked out here of the theatres, and obviously he's got the bag, the takings for the weekend.
He's got his tote bag in his hand. He had just got through signing for the weekend receipts for the holiday weekend. And as he was walking towards this area, about right here, is when a person came around from that corner over there.
Literally just come out the corner
Came out
here.
of the corner and was aiming a weapon right at him and fired 6 shots.
Robert went down. He never knew what hit him. The bold killer fled on a bike he'd stashed in an alley next to the theatre. Robert lay where he fell, dead. There was more than an element of arrogance to what transpired here. The execution went down at precisely this time of day, 10 a.m. 12 years ago. Early morning shoppers and motorists just a few hundred yards away. The killer had disappeared. An urgent citywide search was launched in the air and on the ground. Back at the scene, cops noted the particular brutality of an attack that only netted around $50,000. This was an execution.
This was definitely an ambush execution. There was no doubt in our minds at that point that this was something other than just a typical robbery, if there is one.
It's such a disturbing image to see your brother on that table. And yet you can't even move the sheet because they don't want you to see the parts of his face that are missing. Who does that?
The first step to answering that question, find the bike.
This crime was committed in an area that doesn't see many crimes such as this, so the people who live in the community were reporting on multiple people on a bicycle.
Cops find the bike quickly, dumped in a bush not far from the crime scene. It is a huge break in the case.
If we didn't find that bike and we didn't find a fingerprint or DNA on that bike, we would be spinning our wheels at this point. A very good chance he would have got away.
That fingerprint on the getaway bike led cops to their main suspect, a man named Jason Derek Brown. So just who was this Jason Derek Brown? Well, he grew up with a Mormon family in Southern California and did his Mormon mission in France. But then it seems he left the church and started living life in a much faster lane. Jason Derek Brown, a good-looking guy with his surfer dude looks and attitude, chose partying over piety and made sure he had all the toys to live large, a Beamer, an Escalade, ATVs, all the playthings that make life more fun.
Jason at his best.
But there was one small problem. Investigators say this high roller was living a lie. Where did he get the money initially to buy all those toys in the first place?
Well, none of them were fully bought. They were all bank fraud, virtually all of them. So he signed his signature to get most of those toys, and he never really ended up with the money. As far as I could find, Jason never had a real legitimate 40-hour-a-week job. It was con to con or a small job to small job.
His neighbours thought he was in the golf business and a great guy.
Around the neighborhood, everybody had the same opinion about Jason. Very likable, nothing wrong with him. You know, everybody knew his job and what it related to, and it seemed very plausible. So everybody looked at it as, hey, there's nothing wrong with this guy.
Charisma's one thing, Lance. He obviously had that in spades, but you're painting the picture to me of someone who was more devious than that.
People don't graduate from bank fraud to assassinating an armored car guard. I mean, that's almost unheard of.
So what in the world could take a man from petty cons to murder in the first degree? Agent Leasing has a simple explanation: pressure and selfish greed.
He was sick of couch surfing, living from, couch to couch, friend to friend, not having a firm place. He was obviously frustrated with creditors. They were looking for his toys, his Jeep, his Escalade, his motorcycle, his ATVs, his jet skis. I mean, they wanted it all. And he was sick of dodging it.
So, according to Leasing, Jason Brown set out to fix his problems with a .40 caliber adjustment. His plan focused on this movie theatre, an armoured car, and Thanksgiving weekend.
He did research on that weekend. He did research about what movie theaters do take in, and he was telling others that he thought that would be a great time. That's when the armored cars are going to have a lot of money.
So there was some chatter in the lead up that you guys were able to detect. He spoke to other people about wanting to commit a crime like this.
He brought it up to friends. He brought it up in a way that a lot of the friends thought he was joking. Chalked it up to Jason's drunk and just talking. Jason would say something to the effect of, hey, have you ever thought of robbing an armored car?
A brutal execution during a Thanksgiving weekend armoured car robbery leaves Robert Palomares dead and a brother in mourning.
Jason Brown ruined everything. He ruined our happy little life.
Jason Brown is now a face on the FBI's most wanted list. Brown is accused of pumping 5 slugs into Robert Palomares, an armoured car bagman. Cops say the alleged killer got away with $56,000, but stole much more from the Palomares family.
Jason Derek Brown didn't just take a life. He took my world, my family's world. He took the gift of seeing me graduate from college, to see his first nephews. My kids don't have an uncle. My mom lost all hope. The family split up. He was the glue.
Cops say Brown is a low-level con man who liked to live life in the fast lane and loved his toys, but just couldn't afford his lifestyle.
He wanted to buy the rounds. He wanted to be everybody's friend, and he just didn't have the money to do that.
So he set out to fix it with a .40 caliber semi-auto. As cops searched for Robert Palomares' killer, they started connecting the dots.
He bought a concealed carry permit and got training in how to use a firearm. He purchased high-velocity rounds that would do the most damage.
And he trained with it in the desert near Phoenix. And then surveillance in his own car.
He was doing surveillance on the armored car as they were doing their daily deliveries.
And receipts.
Receipts from restaurants that he had eaten at right in front of the AMC movie theater just days prior to the homicide, so he had spent all his time around there.
Cops tracked Brown to this hotel in Phoenix, but he had already skipped town. He slipped off the grid for a while, but then the FBI tracked him back to Orange County, California, where he had family. Arrest warrant in hand, they prepped to raid his sister's house, hoping to finally slap the cuffs on the man who'd been impossible to catch.
Literally 2 hours or so before we made contact at the sister's house, he gets word that there was a warrant issued for his arrest here in Arizona. He hears that, he breaks his phone, he throws some clothes into his Cadillac Escalade, he rips out the OnStar tracking ability in the Escalade, he says goodbye to his sister, and he leaves.
And then where did he go?
He went south. Went to a gas station, filled up, and then immediately went south towards the Mexican border. Then he pulled a crazy one on us and turned around and went north. Next we have him is moving north through California and into Oregon, and ultimately in Portland. His vehicle is found in the Portland International Airport parking lot.
Was he hoping to make you think he'd left the country?
We checked every record of every flight that we could, anything in his name or any alias that we knew of. Again, hours of surveillance video and nothing that would show that he got on a plane.
That was 12 years ago. They've kept the files hot in Phoenix and even added Brown to the rogues gallery that is the FBI's most wanted.
The FBI estimates there are something in the order of 800 to 1,000 tips related to Jason Derek Brown each and every year. It's more than 80 a month. The reality is police here in Phoenix have no idea where he is. He could be living halfway around the world from here, or it's possible he's still here in America, maybe even living right next door to you. And when those tips come through, what about the location of the sightings? Has he only been sighted here in America?
Oh, around the world. We have FBI legal attaché offices in about 60 countries around the world. Those offices are busy with Jason Brown tips, and we send them to them all the time. Some countries more than others, but we get them all around.
Some leads have the accused killer on the run closer to home, returning to his Mormon roots.
He still knows the Mormon church well. He can still talk that talk, flow within that community, understand the services and understand the charitable work that the Mormon church does.
So you're working on active sightings right now?
At least 5 we've received this past week. So we get them all the time.
12 years after the fact, you're still working on 5 this week?
This week, yes, absolutely.
Forensic artist Kurt Messick is using technology to show what Brown may look like today, 12 long years after the murder.
Because it gives you so many more options of what you can do. You can give the investigation multiple possibilities of what they might look like.
But for all the technology in play, the $200,000 reward, and the many tips investigators have received, for Robert's brother Derek, all the leads in the world still end in the same place.
I ask those that are watching, please help. Help me. Help my family. Help Keith find justice. This guy is out there. He could be your neighbor. He could be that guy living at the park. He could be that new guy who joined your church. You just don't know. But the only way justice could be served is if we all helped, if we all just kept an open eye and helped.